She's pretty much a regular teenager, except for the fact that for most of her life, she's been battling a rare medical condition. She's Eden Knapp. I'm John Bradshaw, and this is our conversation. Eden Knapp, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Hey, why don't we just dive in the deep end? So, for some time you've been battling a rare medical condition.
Yes.
Tell me what that is.
So when I was 7, I was diagnosed with this condition called uveitis. It is an autoimmune condition that affects my vision. Basically, my body is attacking my eyes, which leaves dead cells and stuff floating in my vision that blocks what I can see.
Huh. And this was found when you were 7?
Yes.
And you're 15, close to 16 now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so for more than half your life you've been dealing with this. Mm-hmm. How did you become aware of this?
So back when I was 7, my mom took me to my local pediatrician one morning thinking I had the common pink eye. My doctors ran some tests and they were like, this is not pink eye. They sent me to a local specialist in the Chattanooga area, and they said, you need to go to Vanderbilt in Nashville immediately. So they sent me up there. Doctors ran more and more tests and finally came back with this condition called uveitis.
Okay. In the interim, so you know there's something wrong. Well, did you know there was something wrong or just something irregular? What was that initial visit like when suddenly you guys were made aware that not everything's like it ought to be?
Well, I don't know, for me, I think it was just like, I was still like a little kid, so sure. I couldn't really like tell, it kind of seemed like pink eye because my eyes were pink and it just like didn't feel quite right, a little pain. So there wasn't really like anything that like felt wrong, I guess, or irregular besides the pink eye, which wasn't pink eye.
Right.
But yeah.
So you weren't initially worried?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
When did the worry come?
Well,
assuming there was worry, I can't imagine
yes.
there wouldn't have been.
So for me, when the doctors are all like, when there's like 5 doctors in a room and you're a little kid, sitting on the bench and you're just like what is all of this? And they're saying, okay, run this test, run this. They're saying all these crazy medical words that I don't understand.
Right.
That is definitely when it got scary.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you can speak in behalf of your parents, but when did it become a worry for them? Same time?
Probably around the same time. I know the day that we were in Nashville, I say that was the worst day of my life. They ran so many tests. They drew 13 vials of blood that day. They had to give me multiple injections. And then that was the day they also, they told me they would have to put me on a low-dose chemo drug immediately. And that was an injection every week. And so they taught my parents how to give me an injection. And I think that's when the first time I started crying due to all of this was when they were teaching my parents how to give me an injection.
We're going to come back to this because that's some wild stuff,
yes.
Pretty heavy stuff. But let's talk about you. I see you, normal kid. Exceptional kid. I can't say normal. Way above average. But anyone who was to see you would say, regular kid. Mm-hmm. But you are, but you're not. So let's talk about the regular part. What's life like for you?
Well, I enjoy playing softball at here in Collegedale. I play softball. I also dance. I'm a dancer. I've been doing it ever since I was 4. I like music, like to write songs and just things like that. I'm homeschooled, so in school, I'm in the local Pathfinder club at my church. So just a part of a lot of different things.
Regular stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, good, healthy, regular stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, except what you carry with you, or hovering over you, however you want to put it, is this challenging condition. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first one is, what's that like? What I mean is, what are you dealing with? What do you see through your eyes that others might not see through theirs?
So there's a lot of things that make seeing things difficult. So like my vision, I have these also 2 blind spots that just block a lot of my central vision.
Like even now as we speak.
Yes. So like
Okay.
if I'm looking at your nose, I cannot see that you have eyes. So like
That's interesting.
it like blocks out
When you say
a lot.
blocked, it's
It's just not there.
It's black or it's blurry or what?
Very confusing to explain. It's not a color. It just kind of goes with everything. So like if I'm, like I said, if I'm looking at your nose, you just don't have eyes. It's just not there.
If you look at my eyes, what don't I have?
If I look at your eyes, you don't have like half of your face, like the
Oh.
other half of your face. Like it just depends where I look. You know,
Sure,
it blocks
sure.
out the certain.
Is that consistent? You look away for 10 minutes, you look back at my nose, no eyes, or might it be somewhere else?
It's consistent. Yep.
Okay, so whatever you're experiencing, that sticks with you and that's that.
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't move around.
No.
Okay.
For that at least, some of the floaters and stuff that I have, those kind of move around, but
Yeah.
those are different. But yeah, that makes seeing things in regular life that other kids can see very difficult for me. Like high school is been a challenge.
Yeah, explain.
So last year I went to Collegedale Academy for my freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And the whiteboards, most kids can see the whiteboards, right? My teachers kindly assigned me a front row in all of my classes so then I could see better, but still I would only be able to see some of the things on the whiteboard. And like I said, with me just looking at your nose and blocking out your eyes, that's how it would be looking at a whiteboard. I could only see like a couple letters and then everything else was like not there.
Okay, so when you tilt down and look up, when you move, look from the side,
Yep.
side.
It just stays in the central vision wherever I look.
So that would make being in a regular school environment just really difficult.
Even just walking down like the hallways, passing by people, passing by my friends, I wouldn't be able to tell who they were sometimes because I couldn't see their faces, which made things awkward at times. If you have a friend pass by you and they're like looking at you, but I can't tell who they are, so I don't know who they are.
Right.
So that made things complicated
That's
as well.
a complicating factor.
Yeah.
What's interesting, you see somebody in a wheelchair, you say, that person has a disability.
Mm-hmm.
You see somebody with a prosthetic leg, you say, well, that person has a prosthetic. You see you don't see anything out of the ordinary.
Yep.
So that's a fascinating one, right?
Yes.
It's not like anyone can tell, oh, she's battling with this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you wish sometimes you could carry a sign or let people know, or how do you deal with that when you're battling something no one can see?
There are definitely times where I wish that my condition was more obvious so that people could understand more, or realize that I can't see things. Because I definitely have times where people assume that I can, but I
Right.
can't.
Yeah, well, everyone would assume that you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm running into walls or anything, you know?
Right. And your friends go by and you didn't say hello, you ignored them. And that's
Exactly.
like, what is up with her?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, but hang on a minute. You're missing things. There's things you can't see. You play softball.
Yes.
It's really important to be able to see certain things when you play softball.
Yes, it is.
So how does that work out?
So I have not played softball for the past, I don't know, like 4 years. But when I was
Okay.
little, I played, t-ball and, maybe like the next league up. But
Yeah.
I just really missed it this year. And I was like, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to do it. If I don't see the ball, it's okay. It's just a game. I just wanted to have fun with it. And so that's what I'm doing.
Cool. Are you hitting the ball?
I'm hitting the ball.
Whoa.
I
Well,
made it
that's
on
okay.
base last night in my softball
That's not
game.
bad.
So
So what I'm hearing you say is that where this could slow you down, there are places you're just not letting it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question, and we'll double back around to where we were before. Where does this lead? How far does this go?
What do you mean exactly?
Where is your vision problem, your vision challenge? What's the extent of that? How extensive will the impact be on your sight?
So my condition, there is a possibility I could go blind. I don't remember the exact percentage, but there is a chance that you could go blind with this condition. And I have other, like I said, the blind spots aren't
Yeah.
exactly my condition. There's something else that the doctors don't know what they are. And so that's on top of the other thing, on top of uveitis. So yeah, it could go as far as blindness.
It could.
It could.
Do we know what percentage is here?
Like I said, I don't really remember. I think 30% of the people with my condition go blind. Something like that.
Oh, that's significant. Oh. Okay, let's go back. You're a 7-year-old kid, you're at Vanderbilt. There's all these doctors hovering over you, using words that adults wouldn't understand unless they've been in medical school. And now they're telling you to take a chemo drug. Now, was that a best guess? Sometimes medicine is, or was that's standard practice? Because that's pretty crazy that you're on chemo at 7, 8 years old, you don't have cancer. But we understand how that works. Is that standard, or was that something different for you? Do you know?
I think it's pretty standard because it's very low dose. It's not like, a high dose. It's just, like I said, an injection once a week. But yeah, as a little kid, that's definitely terrified.
It's fascinating that you're 15 years old and you look back and you say, that was the worst day of my life. That's a lot to put on a kid, a lot to have to go through. How did you cope with that? How did you handle that, being 7 years old and being confronted by something devastating?
Well, I think, of course, as I've gotten older, I've been able to think about that more. I think at the time I kind of just ignored it. I have this medical issue, but I don't, want to be seen as the kid with the medical issues, But it definitely was hard as a kid. There was things that I couldn't do that my friends were doing, or there were days where my friends could just be playing and laughing and having fun, but I didn't feel good because the medicine, that there's a lot of side effects with that type of medication.
Yeah.
And so I was constantly nauseous. And so there were just days that I didn't feel good. I didn't even want to have fun because I just couldn't.
Yeah. It's clearly difficult for a 7-year-old to internalize this and rationalize, or whatever the right word is.
Yeah.
It's difficult for a 15-year-old, difficult for a 50-year-old. So life was happy, life was miserable, life was happy and miserable. How would you summarize those days looking back?
I'd say it's kind of in the middle.
Okay.
I haven't been to one extreme or the other. I don't think I try to balance it,
Yeah.
There were bad days, but there were also some, good days.
Okay. So you're able to see the sunshine through the clouds?
Yes.
Okay, well, very cool. Okay, so what happened next? You were 7 years old dealing with something rare, something that, I don't know, was it easy for you and your family to actually understand this?
I think it's been a struggle to understand it, and it still is, with the possibility that I could go blind. That's hard to understand and grasp, but yeah.
I want to ask you this question sooner rather than later. So you live with this possibility, live with a restricting medical condition. How heavy is that? I mean, you've got a sunny outlook. You're an artsy sort of a person. You love your friends. You're a let's have a go. I'm going to play softball anyway. Sure. But the reality is, in the quietness of your own place, how difficult is it to look in the mirror and go, I've got this. I can't change it. I have to live with that. What's that weight like?
Well, it definitely gets heavy at times, but that's where God has come into my life.
Explain.
So over the past couple of years, my relationship with God has really grown. I took on a challenge, just a simple challenge called the 777 challenge. And it was a challenge to pray 7 minutes a day, 7 days a week for 7 weeks. And that's when I first really felt my connection with God just like blossom. And I was like, I want more of this. And around that same time, I had this spiritual mentor in our Pathfinder Club come up to me and ask me if I would like to join a Bible study group. And from there, my relationship with God just went off the charts. I've been taking on all these challenges and spending time with God. And just God is the one that gives me the peace in all of the storms.
So practical sense now. You realize it's a difficult day,
Yep.
whatever the reason is. Talk to me about how your relationship with God steps in and carries you through that.
Well, just on like a normal day, like, I don't know, I have other stuff, not just my vision issues. I also have like pain in my body, just constant pain that I deal with. And so that is at times even worse than what my medical, like my vision medical stuff is.
Are they related, unrelated?
They're unrelated.
Okay.
Well, they're kind of related because usually uveitis or an autoimmune condition comes along with another autoimmune condition. So they thought I might eventually have rheumatoid arthritis, but I don't right now, praise the Lord.
Amen.
But that is also a possibility.
Yeah.
So, but every day is a new day, and really you just have to take it one step at a time, and that's where God just is always by my side, leading me through.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
How much of that do you credit to that 777 challenge?
I credit a lot of it because that was really the first, like I said, connection I had, or realization that I could have a relationship with God, or that there was more to just living, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so you're 7, and you learn this, and you're at home, and your family's got to administer chemotherapy. How did life, up until that stage, life hadn't changed. How did life begin to change? What were some of those changes that started to creep in incrementally?
So over time, my vision has gotten worse. Of course, since I was 7, you know, my vision's a lot worse now at 15 than it was at 7. But I think over time, like I said, it's just gotten gradually worse, meaning, you know, there's other things that have to change. Like now I get like large print books for my schooling, and just things like that. I've tried glasses. Glasses don't help my condition. A lot of people ask me like, why don't you wear glasses? But glasses don't take away blind spots. You know, they don't take away the debris in your vision. So that's why glasses don't help me. But just things like that, you know, the large print books, the having people tell me where to go when I'm at like an event. Like I can't find any, like my friends when I'm going to, let's just say I'm going to like a talent show at the school, and like I'm looking for one of my friends. Well, I can't find them because I can't see them. So I always have to like have someone like, oh, your friend is over there, you know, go sit in the 5th row down, you know.
Okay, so you walk into the auditorium and you're scanning the crowd.
Exactly.
No good.
It's, useless.
Ah, that's
Yep.
interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, but there's always someone who's willing to say,
Exactly.
down there on the left.
Yep. I have good friends, good family that help me where I need it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the challenge, but mostly I think about the hope and how you've been able to find strength and how you've got a sunny disposition in spite of what might level or completely take out some other people. Okay, more of that in a moment. I'm glad you're joining us. My guest is Eden Knapp. We'll talk more about her experience in just a moment. This is Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written. Welcome back to Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written. My guest is Eden Knapp, who's 15, going on 16, and battling a rare medical condition known as uveitis. Before doctors said that word, well, you were 7, so the answer is no, but anyone in your orbit aware of uveitis, ever heard of it? Like your parents said, oh, yeah, we know that.
Nope. Never heard of it before.
And how many uveitis patients are there in the United States? Do you know?
I don't know exactly for like right now. I don't know the exact statistics, but I know it's not too many, but as the years have gone by, it is becoming more common. It's still rare, but it's becoming more common.
The number I heard was something like 2,000, which is really few in a country of 330 million people, making you almost unique.
Yes.
Explain, if you can, what this means, autoimmune. Not everybody understands that. So how do you understand that this is an autoimmune condition?
So how I understand it basically is your body, your immune system, is attacking a certain part of your body. For me, it's my eyes, so that's why it's uveitis. But your body is attacking a certain part of your body, your immune system is. And so that causes inflammation and swelling for some people, but for me, it causes, when it attacks my eyes, it kills like cells and then it leaves dead cells floating in my vision.
And that's where you're unable to see, or where the floaters might be.
Yep.
Yeah, I see.
Yep.
So is there any understanding as to why this might happen?
So it can be from a variety of different things. Autoimmune conditions just come on randomly.
Yeah.
It can be from past sicknesses or something that just sparked your immune system and made it go crazy and attack your eyes. But the doctors don't know specifically for my condition.
Okay, so essentially it's just random, right?
Yeah.
You get it, and that's how that goes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a kid and you're getting older and you're wrapping your arms around this and life is going on, but then at some stage you think about the future. So undoubtedly you have plans and hopes and aspirations for what the future looks like. What does that look like for you right now? What do you hope to go on and do one day?
So I hope to, my main goal that I would love would be to own an animal shelter. I've loved animals ever since I was a little kid, and I just think that'd be really cool. So that, I also, like I mentioned earlier, I enjoy writing songs. I don't know where that could go maybe someday, but I would enjoy, maybe pursuing that a little more.
So as you look into the future, how often have you had to say, oh, I wanted to do that, but I had a dream to do this, but has uveitis done much to impact your vision of the future and what that looks like for you?
So yes, kind of. I'm looking into becoming a veterinary technician, which with that is a little bit of that impacting from my medical condition, because there are things that you need to see that
Right.
I may or may not be able to see. Let's just say you're in a surgery room with an animal and you need to read the charts. Well, I can't see that far away to read the charts. So that gets complicated. Also, like I mentioned, I have pain in my body, so standing for long periods of time makes things difficult as well. So yes, there are definitely areas that this condition has impacted me, even along the music lines. I can't read music. I can't see the music, even if it's right in front of me. Sometimes I have to be right up close to it. So that definitely makes things a lot more complicated.
So you get up close, but you have blind spots.
Yeah.
But you can see up close, or the blind spots shift, or the blind spots kick in when it's 18 inches away, or what?
The blind spots are here, and then I have this little space in the middle where I can see. But the thing is, on top of the blind spots, I have the floaters. I've got blurry vision because I have cataracts as well. And there's other things that I don't even know the names of that I have. But so it's hard to see in general, but then the blind spots are on top of it. So it's just another added thing.
So you think about the numerous people who are blind, and yet have achieved what typical people, the everyday person would think is phenomenal things. I heard about a blind man who built a house. Then you've got all kinds of musicians who are blind and so forth. So for someone like me, I look at that and I go, wow. Somebody like you look at what blind people, and you're not blind, but blind people have achieved. Does that speak to you and give you hope, or not really?
I see it as there is always hope, that you can do something. And of course, with God on your side, you can do anything that God can help you with, and so I definitely think there is hope for me in whatever I want to do, but,
Tell me what it's like living with the possibility that one day you may be blind.
It's definitely a thought, in my head. I think I try to maybe even kind of push it out of my mind, ignore the thought, live in the moment, because this is what I'm facing right now. So I don't need to worry about that now, because that's not as important right now.
Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, the Bible says. You have
Yes.
enough to worry about today without worrying about tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't
Yes.
really let that intrude.
I
If
try
that
not to.
happens, then that's what's going to
Yes.
happen. Over the last few years, how has your uveitis progressed? Are you seeing progressing, or are you seeing it hold steady at a certain place?
So it is definitely progressing. Actually, just about a month ago, my vision worsened even more. And I quickly went to Nashville, to Vanderbilt, and they ran more tests and they put me back on steroids. So I'm on steroids right now, actually, and I'm going back this upcoming week to Vanderbilt to just go from there.
Yeah. See what they
Change
say.
medications, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Have you spoken with, interacted with other people who are dealing with uveitis?
So, yes, we actually know someone now who has, I think it's uveitis, or at least it's something very close.
Yeah.
But it's different because I'm a kid and this is an adult, and there's not as many kids with, uveitis.
You mentioned earlier. Oh no, let me press that a little bit further. So what's that like? You compare notes. Do you ask, what are you dealing with? Here's what I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle it? Here's what I'm doing. Is there that?
Uveitis is interesting because it's different for everyone. It's not the exact same thing. Like, it's not like the exact same medication is going to work for this person as it is for me. It's completely different. The way you deal with it, the blind spots, the floaters, whatever is all different. So, yeah.
So it's not a matter of we're walking this precise same journey
Exactly.
together. It all differs for different people. It's a funny sort of a condition, isn't it?
Yep. And another interesting thing is uveitis can go into like remission around in your 20s. So that's also a possibility. It could go into remission, or it could just continue getting worse. So, but for some people, they go into remission, but other people, it just continues to get worse throughout their lifetime.
Oh, that's uncertainty, isn't it?
It is.
How do other people relate to you?
You mean like as in my
Let's say your peers.
peers?
Yeah. Do they? Yeah. I won't put any words in your mind here. How do you find other people relate to what you're going through?
I think people, at least like my friends, from my perspective, I think they have a difficult time relating to me. I think they try to, but I don't think they quite understand, exactly what I go through, and it would be hard for anyone to understand. But I think that they, they try their best to relate to me, to be a good friend, and be there for me.
So, what I know is you've preached before hundreds of people, and I'm sure that was excellent. I heard it was. So now all kinds of people understand the condition or something about what you're going through. How do you want people to treat you? Here's what I mean. Like, I can't say to you, listen, my car's in the driveway. Maybe I could actually. Here's the keys, go and move the car. There are some things that I shouldn't ask you to do because that's just dumb. It's insensitive, Oh, look over there. That might just be unmindful. So how should a person relate to another person dealing with a medical challenge that they may not fully understand? How do you do that? Is that ever awkward? And how, because I'd hate to say the wrong thing and feel like, oh boy, that was insensitive, that was really dumb. How should people relate to, I'm going to say you, but then broaden it, because we all got to relate to people with disabilities of one kind or another. How should that be done? Yeah,
I think that's a definitely very complicated question and a complicated thing to do. With my issues, it's, it changes like all the time. Like, my vision, as it gets worse, there's less and less things I can do,
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely hard to find that balance of like where you're not, like, where someone's not saying to me, oh, like, you can't do that because, you have medical issues, or you should go do this, and then I can't do that, So it's definitely hard to find that balance. And with people in general, everyone has different struggles, and it's hard to know exactly what someone else is going through unless you were in their shoes. And so you don't want to assume things, but yeah, like I said, very, very complicated.
Okay, so advise me. Let's say we're going to interact socially. We're going to be in a situation where somehow we're hanging out together. How do I make sure I don't step on a landmine and cause offense or do something insensitive? How? What should I do?
I mean, for me, I think it'd be better to assume that I can do something
Okay.
than I can't do something.
Yeah.
Let me, like, if you were to ask me to, as you're saying, like, move your car from in the driveway, like, it'd be better to assume that I can do it and, like, let me turn you down than for you to say, oh, you can't do that, I'll ask someone else.
Okay.
Because
we got to deal with that all the time with people like
Exactly.
folks in wheelchairs or people
Exactly.
who are blind.
Yep.
I sat on a plane once. It was like a 12-hour plane flight many years ago, next to a man, and it dawned on me he was blind. I had no idea. There was no cane, there was no guide dog, there was nothing. And he was on his way to Los Angeles for a business meeting. And I said, what? How? No sweat. Because, of course, that was his world. He'd learned to navigate it. He had this was many years ago. He had a watch that talked to him and told him the time. And this was before people would carry iPhones and whatnot. And he somehow was just rolling with it. Here's a question for you. Don't know if you can answer this or not. We'll find out. I read where some people with disabilities, whether they're paraplegics or quadriplegics or whatever the case might be, and they do something remarkable, and people, able-bodied people, will say, wow, you're so special, you're so cool, you're a hero. And some people resent that. Now, from my perspective, I think it kind of is heroic. I mean, I'm looking at somebody saying, well, I don't know if I could do that. And so my inclination might be to say, wow, but people in that situation often don't want you wowing them. Mm-hmm. I think I want to ask you how we navigate that, or what. I know I'm not speaking to your situation now. You're in the shallow end more so. But are, at least in your eyes, people who are overcoming great odds, is that heroic necessarily? Is that really a big deal?
I think it is a big deal, but at the same time, I think that most people that have conditions or disabilities, they want to be seen as normal people. And like, they just want to like live a normal life. And it's like, yeah, I did this, but like a normal person could do this. And so like, I'm a normal person, right? Like, I don't have to be seen as any different, And I think that's how a lot of people view that. They don't want to be the person that, has the disabilities and, they just want to be seen as a normal person.
Are you comfortable talking about this? And I don't mean in this situation. I'm going to assume a certain comfort level, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But let's say that nice old lady at church wants to pull you aside and say, oh, that was a lovely sermon, and start asking her 20 questions. And then you walk into the parking lot and someone else wants to do the same thing because they know something about you and they know there's something a little different about you and they blah, blah, blah. Are you okay with that? Or does that
I'm good with it.
That doesn't just get old?
No, at least right now, I honestly like people to understand, where I am, what I deal with, So people coming and asking me questions, I feel like people are trying to understand, and I think that makes me feel better about the whole situation.
Probably better than people whispering and pointing and
Exactly.
not saying anything.
Or assuming things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So are there any things that you're able to do right now that you're like, man, I hope I don't have to stop doing this? Is there do you deal with that? Right now I can hit a softball. What's that?
So
like?
I think one of the biggest things, so right now I have my permit to drive. And in about a month and a half, when I turn 16, I can get my license.
Yeah, wait a minute. There's a certain irony about that.
Yep.
That's, yeah, I just hope I'm not in your blind spot. But anyway, okay.
Yep.
But you have your permit. And
so right now, I legally can drive. I'm not legally blind. So I can legally drive.
And you'd be comfortable, confident doing that, obviously?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And so like I have also like the car that I'm going to be driving here soon has a lot of safety features. It, beeps if there's a car coming at you. Like, it just things like that, which I find is also very useful. And, recently having my mom, riding in the car with me since I have my permit, she helps me, but we're just double checking to make sure I can see, like when I look both ways, okay, do I see the car coming?
Yep.
And I have been, so that we're good.
Yeah.
But there have been a couple instances where I just saw a car appear out of nowhere and I was like, okay, that was in my blind spot. So I've been learning ways to get around the blind spots, and like, you have to just constantly look everywhere, like to move the blind spots where I can like see in the center. But so for now I can drive.
Nice.
But in the future, if my vision continues to get worse and I become legally blind or to the point where I can't, I won't be able to drive.
And
that would be a big disappointment.
Yeah. How big?
Just, I don't know, I feel like I'd have to rely a lot more on other people to get me where I need to go all the time, and it'd just be more of a struggle.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? No one loves that, having to rely on others to do the stuff that you want to do and kind of should do. Yeah.
Especially like I was saying earlier, people with disabilities want to do things on their own. They want to be a normal person. They want to. They don't want to have to rely on all those other people or feel like they're burdening other people with their issues.
Yeah.
They want. We want to do things on our own.
Yeah.
So.
At It Is Written, we have a humanitarian project called Eyes for India, and we provide cataract surgery and other kinds of ophthalmological services for typically very poor people in India. And what we find again and again and again, I don't want to be a burden. And now, in rural India, in a poor village where no one's got nothing, that word burden is real. There are no government services. You don't get the talking watch. They don't have computers that'll speak back to you.
Yep.
And so the sense is, wow, I just don't want to. So having to rely on others, you'd have no shortage of people who'd be willing to help, but still, independence is good, right? Yeah. All right, great. Okay, so looking forward, college, does that present a challenge?
Definitely in the classroom. Definitely more of a challenge. Like I said, large print material and other things.
But there's a pathway there, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty cool, isn't it? So there's a pathway and you don't need to fear that those doors are closed to you.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, I've got a question that I want to ask you in a moment. And I don't know if I'd know the answer to that question or not, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. I'm with Eden Knapp. She's battling uveitis. It's rare. Just about 2,000 people in the United States have the condition. More evidently are getting the condition. I want to find out about that too in just a second. I'll be back in a moment. This is Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written.
Loving well is a way of life. And loving well means wanting the very best for others. Go ye therefore becomes, I'll go, send me. Send me across the world or across town. Work in me to impact lives for such a time as this. And if I can't go myself, I want to send others who can take the everlasting gospel to the world. It Is Written's Office of Planned Giving gives you the opportunity to leave a legacy, to make a major impact for Christ, to lead others to faith in Jesus in preparation for eternity. Let God use you to enable others to go. To learn more, visit hislegacy.com. That's hislegacy.com.
Welcome back to Conversations, brought to you by It Is Written. My guest is Eden Knapp. Eden, your battle with uveitis, been going on for some time. I have a question for you. Do you ever get concerned, or does it ever bother you, or you work that out here? What's the danger of being defined by this? This is who you are. This is what you're known for. Here's the uveitis girl. Do you ever, there's a balance, right? Because as we're saying, you want people to understand. If they need to ask questions, you want them to ask questions. But there's more to you than this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So do you ever get concerned, or is it ever a thing where, man, I want to be seen for more than this. I don't want to be pigeonholed. Is that a thing?
Yes, that is definitely something I have thought about and had to deal with, because I feel like a lot of times, just for example, I'll hear my mom on the phone at times, and one of the first things that people always ask is, how's Eden? You know,
Sure.
how's her medical, stuff? And it's just like, I am a lot more than my medical issues. There's a lot more to me than that. I enjoy other things. So yes, that definitely gets to be a struggle, and especially in your head, if you start feeling like, yeah, I'm the girl with medical issues. I'm the girl who can't see the whiteboard. I'm the girl who can't do this and can't do that, and that can be depressing, and it can be, it can affect you in many ways. And that can affect you also physically if you're having that sort of stress, if you put that sort of stress on yourself, that can make actually your medical issues worse.
Yeah, right. However, we don't want to ignore that. It's a thing.
Exactly.
So who needs to adjust here? Do we need to adjust? I'm using the general we. When we're calling your mom and say to ourselves, not that I call your mom a lot, you know what I'm saying, but do we need to say, maybe I just don't need to lead with that question all the time? Or do you need to say, it is what it is, man? So how do we find the right ground? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely good that people ask, that people care, because I have a lot of people praying for me, and so I definitely, I feel the love from people, but there are times, just, you don't always have to ask, every time, you don't have to.
Yeah, so that's a thing, right? Being defined by this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And then, like you're telling your story now, more people know about it, more people are going to ask.
Yep, exactly.
There's a balance to find somewhere,
Yes.
isn't there? Yeah.
Yes.
What's home like? You've got an older brother, you've got a younger brother.
Yep.
And you were 7, so presumably you have a brother who's a little older, brother who's a little younger. Eden's going through this. She's getting the injections. We're rushing to Nashville every so often to get to speak to doctors. What were the dynamics like at home, and how did it change, if at all?
Yeah.
Did your brothers treat you differently? Were you a pain in the neck for them? Or were they for you? How did that play out?
Well, I would like to think that I wasn't a pain for anyone in my family, but my family was very supportive, and there were many times where I would just be having a rough day, rough night. There'd be times where my eyes were in so much pain, and I was so light sensitive. I would have to sit in a dark room with sunglasses on, and it was still too bright. I couldn't open my eyes. It was just so painful, and my family would just come and sit in there with me, and my brothers, I love my brothers. My brothers are amazing. They're best brothers I could have ever asked for.
Cool.
They're very supportive of me, and they help me with whatever I need, So yeah, I feel like, my family has been there, and, we've had many prayer times together, and, I think through this we've even become closer.
Nice. So let me ask you about this. When we were chatting earlier, now, I didn't get any of the pain in my eyes, can't see, got to be in a dark room. Tell me about some of that stuff. So what are the things you've not told me that you're prepared to tell me?
There's, like I said,
that come along with uveitis, because that's I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So like I said, there's just a lot of different things that can happen with this condition when my vision flares, which meaning my body is in the midst of attacking my eyes. Usually when that first happens, there's this pain, just throbbing pain in my eyes, and I just get really light sensitive. I can't even be I can't see any light, even with in a dark room with sunglasses on. Just it still hurts too bad to open my eyes.
How long does that last?
Usually day or two.
Oh, a day or two.
It can last a couple days. Yeah.
All right.
So, or it can go away and then come back a couple days later. It really just depends. Like I
Okay.
said, it's
And
kind of random.
You're still dealing with that today?
Yeah, so I had that happen, I think a couple months ago.
And guessing, based on your experience, when might that happen again?
So right now, since I just flared recently, they're probably gonna, like I said, I'm going back to Nashville this upcoming week. They're probably gonna adjust my medication a little, and so if the medication isn't working, it'll probably happen again in a couple of months. I go to Vanderbilt to my doctor in Nashville every 3 months for a checkup, but right now I'm going every 4 to 6 weeks because
I see.
it's
It's intense right now.
yeah.
Oh, so there are peaks and valleys. Oh,
Yep.
interesting.
Usually I go with like about every year to 2 years, there's like a spell where it's worse. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a difficult question that everyone battling some kind of medical challenge asks. People dealing with the common cold ask this. People with stage 4 cancer ask this. You mentioned your family and you've had many prayer times together. God allowed this to happen. God didn't cause it.
Yes.
God allowed it. We understand where pain comes from. Jesus said an enemy has done this. God could stop it. Eden, God hasn't stopped it. Has that caused any wrestling in your mind? You must have looked towards heaven and said, hey, come on, you could stop this. What's going on? And I don't know if you're still working through that or whether you resolved it when you were 7. What has that been like? You're a young woman of faith. You believe in God. You go to church. You preach. I want to talk to you about that in just a second. You guys have prayed a lot and other people have prayed for you. God hasn't taken it away. How do you live with that? How do you reconcile that?
Well, I mean, it's a struggle. Yes, it's not easy to live with restrictions in your life, with disability, with medical stuff. But, God has a reason for everything, and he can turn anything bad into something good. And so if there's any way that God can use my story and my issues to reach someone else, I'm fine with going through that pain if it's going to help someone else. And so honestly, with where I am right now, I would go through this. I would let God just leave it, like, if this is going to continue to help someone else in the future. And so really that's what I look towards is, God can use my pain to help someone else through their pain. And if he can do that, then I don't mind living with the pain.
You preach. So, what do you preach about?
So for Pathfinder Sabbath, actually back in December, our pastor asked me if I would preach for our Pathfinder Sabbath. And I was like, give me...
Why do you ask you? Why do you ask you? Is it because you're bubbly or because do you talk a lot or are you the brightest kid or what? Why you?
So...
Or did it have something to do with your experience?
Couple months before that, actually, let's jump back to the 777 challenge.
Yeah.
When I took on this challenge and then, I had that, awakening in my life, then I was invited to join this Bible study group. The Bible study group is actually kind of like a part of our Pathfinder Club. And for our camp out in September, our Bible study group did all of our Pathfinder worships. And I shared my testimony for Saturday, our church service. And so I think out of that, the pastor was like, I think, I heard that you shared your testimony. Would you want to preach for church? And so I took a couple weeks to think about it and pray about it, and I felt God leading, so I decided to go ahead with it.
Well, okay. So you were asked to preach. You said yes.
Yep.
And then you got about doing what every preacher has to do, and that's prepare the sermon.
Yep.
And so walk us through it. If you were to preach again that sermon, what will we hear you talk about?
So basically what I did, I talked about Moses' story and kind of connected it to my story, and believing the promises that God has for us. So I talked about just how in life there's a lot of things we have to wait for. And Moses had to wait 40 years in the wilderness with uncertainty of what life would bring for him before, God called him back to free the Israelites. And so, there's a lot of uncertainty in my life, and I'm just waiting, right? And for all of us, we're all waiting, right? We're waiting for something in our life, but we're all waiting for the overarching promise that God is coming to take us home. So that was like the gist of my sermon, and I connected that to my issues, what I've been through, and I'm waiting for that everlasting promise.
I think it's important to point out. So I've had a friend, he passed away years ago. He was a member of a church where I was on the pastoral staff. And as an adult, he went blind. And I forget the condition, I don't recall. He wrote a book, pretty good book, about Onesimus. He wrote a column in the local newspaper every week about his travails and experiences, not always travails and blessings as a blind person. He told me about the time he visited someone on the farm and rode the four-wheeler around the field. And I said, you have to be out of your mind. There are fences and trees. No sweat. Got on a four-wheeler and drove all around and so on. He walked wherever he wanted to walk. He had a great guide dog. My point being this. Blind people live really, really meaningful lives, right? It's not like life ends.
Exactly.
People in wheelchairs live really, really, really meaningful lives, and they're still 110% valid. I got a friend who's paraplegic, lives in a wheelchair. We pulled up to Taco Bell once, and I said, "Hey, there's a disabled parking place over there." He said, "I prefer to leave those for people who need them." Like, yeah, okay. Looking ahead in your mind, certainly there's got to be plan A, and then, depending on where this thing goes, some plans B. But I'm expecting, to live a really meaningful life, whatever uveitis does, right?
Yep.
A full, productive, meaningful life where you're just as vibrant and vital then as you are now and as anybody else.
Yes.
Isn't that an important thing for people without visible disabilities to keep in mind regarding people who have disabilities? They paint, they raise families, they exercise, they have fun, they read and teach and lead and all that kind of a thing. So you're looking forward with hope, right?
Yes.
All kinds of hope.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Best possible scenario, what happens? Best possible scenario.
Best possible scenario, my condition goes into remission. You can't take away what blind spots and everything that I have right now,
Okay.
but the condition stays stable and I go on living life like I'm living now, which there's still, struggles with the vision, but hey, I can still see. So I can still do things.
Yeah. You're not the only person on the planet to have a struggle.
Exactly.
Having said that, lots of young people going through struggles no one else knows about. What do you say to that person? It could be someone who's dealing with a vision issue, a mobility issue, or just a personal emotional issue, and they feel like it's them versus the world. What would you say to that person if you had an opportunity to say something?
Well, I think something that's been heavy on my heart to just share with anyone that I can is that God can help you with whatever you are dealing with. All you have to do is spend time with Him. Let Him work in your life, and He'll change so many things. He'll give you peace and He'll give you joy through whatever you are going through, even if it's just some personal struggle, if it's depression, because I know that's a big thing in our teenagers of this day and age is depression, and that's not something that people necessarily, other people like adults or whatever, are going to come up to you and help you with. So God is always there for you. If you need somebody, God is there and He will help you through whatever you are going through, and He wants to help you, but you gotta want His help.
How do you get that help? You're the preacher, so you've got to have some answers now. How do you get that help from God? What do you do?
Just come to God as you are. Surrender your life to Him. Give up everything in your life to God, and God will lead the way. He'll show you where you need to go. He'll give you the strength. He says that when we are weak, then we are made strong. So He gives us the strength when we are at our weakest. And that might not be our physical strength, but our spiritual strength, and He'll help us through whatever we are going through.
Hey, you haven't preached your last sermon, have you? You're planning on preaching again?
I don't know, wherever God leads.
Well, I hope so. I think you ought to be. I think you ought to be open to that. A Bible story that really speaks to you, or a Bible character that speaks to you. I'm gonna type you here. Given your condition, given what you're battling with, what's a Bible story that speaks to you, to the you with uveitis, not just the you?
Well, I think Job is definitely one that quickly comes to mind for just when you're struggling with something, and it feels like I guess like the why God, but through that other people can be reached, like through Job's story, right? His story is in the Bible, and that's reached people, and so I feel like that kind of resonates with me a little bit with how God used my story to help someone else.
Outstanding. Hey, well, it's going to be exciting to see what happens next. We hope you get your permit, and we hope that the doctors say all the right things, and undoubtedly God's going to continue to use you to bless many, many, many people.
I hope so.
Thanks for taking your time. This has been great.
Thank you.
And God bless you. Thanks for joining us. This has been great fun. I'm really glad you've been part of this so that you can be inspired as well. She's Eden Knapp. I'm John Bradshaw, and this has been our conversation.